We've been reading Isaiah. We've read chapters 1 through 4. We've seen how God is going to bring his people low at the very end, how he's going to cleanse you by a spirit of judgment and a spirit of fire. When his great wrath begins, you're going to be here. God's people will be here for the first 45 days of his great wrath. And he is talking about what he's going to do at that time. And how do we know that? Because we know that the seventh seal says this. Revelation 6, 6, verse 15. Then the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, and everyone else, both slave and free, hid in caves. And among the rocks of the mountains, they called to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can withstand it? And Isaiah is telling us that these things are happening. It's showing us that these people are hiding in caverns and rocks and to the overhanging crags from the fearful presence of the Lord and the splendor of his majesty when he rises to shake the earth. So we know that this is happening from the abomination of desolation. God's wrath has been incited, and now stuff's going down. And you know what's going to happen concurrently? Because God, there would be no reason for him to have you stay here, to have you remain here, except that you are going to be tested and you are going to be cleansed by a spirit of judgment and a spirit of fire. There's a lot of work to be done, isn't there? There's a lot of work. If he sets up his witnesses and he's separating the wheat from the tares during that first part of the 7-year period, and then he's building his people through his witnesses, those who remain, who haven't been separated out, building them over the next couple years. Then the Antichrist rises, and you have to go through that. You have to go through that 1,290 days. Then the abomination of desolation is set up, and you've got to go through 45 days of God's great wrath. Do you get the picture? There's a lot that needs to happen in you. There's a lot that needs to happen in me, and I'm not even going to be here for that. Let's find out why. Isaiah chapter 5. I will sing for the one I love a song about his vineyard. My loved one had a vineyard on a fertile hillside. He dug it up and cleared it of stones and planted it with the choicest vines. He built a watchtower in it and cut out a winepress as well. Then he looked for a crop of good grapes, but it yielded only bad fruit. Now you dwellers in Jerusalem and people of Judah, judge between me and my vineyard. What more could have been done for my vineyard than I have done for it? When I looked for good grapes, why did it yield only bad? Now I will tell you what I'm going to do to my vineyard. I will take away its hedge. Okay, Antichrist reign. It will be destroyed. I will break down its wall, and it will be trampled. I will make it a wasteland, neither pruned nor cultivated, and briars and thorns will grow there. I will command the clouds not to rain on it. The vineyard of the Lord Almighty and the nation is the nation of Israel, and the people of Judah are the vines he delighted in. And he looked for justice, but saw only bloodshed, for righteousness, but heard cries of distress. Woe to you who add house to house and join field to field till no space is left, and you live alone in the land. The Lord Almighty has declared in my hearing, surely the great houses will become desolate, the fine mansions left without occupants. A 10-acre vineyard will produce only a bath of wine. A omer of seed will yield only an ephah of grain. Woe to those who rise early in the morning to run after their drinks, who stay up late at night till they are inflamed with wine. They have harps and lyres at their banquets, pipes and timbrels and wine, but they have no regard for the deeds of the Lord, no respect for the work of his hands. Therefore my people will go into exile for lack of understanding. You understand what's going to happen? My people will go into exile for lack of understanding. Those of high rank will die of hunger, and the common people will be parched with thirst. Therefore death expands its jaws, opening wide its mouth. Into it will descend their nobles and masses, with all their brawlers and revelers. So people will be brought low and everyone humbled, the eyes of the arrogant humbled. But the Lord Almighty will be exalted by his justice, and the holy God will be proved holy by his righteous acts. Then sheep will graze as in their own pasture. Lambs will feed among the ruins of the rich. Woe to those who draw sin along with the cords of deceit, and wickedness as with cart ropes. For those who say, let God hurry, let him hasten his work so we may see it. The plan of the Holy One of Israel, let it approach. Let it come into view so we may know it. Woe to those who call evil good and good evil, who put darkness for light and light for darkness, who put bitter for sweet and sweet for bitter. Woe to those who are wise in their own eyes and clever in their own sight. Woe to those who are heroes at drinking wine and champions at mixing drinks, who acquit the guilty for a bribe but deny justice to the innocent. Therefore, as tongues of fire lick up straw and as dry grass sinks down in the flames, so their roots will decay and their flowers blow away like dust. For they have rejected the law of the Lord Almighty and spurned the word of the Holy One of Israel. Therefore, the Lord's anger burns against his people. His hand is raised, and he strikes them down. The mountains shake, and the dead bodies are like refuse in the street. Yet for all this, his anger is not turned away. His hand is still upraised. He lifts up a banner for the distant nations. He whistles for those at the ends of the earth. Here they come, swiftly and speedily. Not one of them grows tired or stumbles. Not one slumbers or sleeps. Not a belt is loosened at the waist. Not a sandal strap is broken. Their arrows are sharp. All their bows are strung. Their horses' hooves seem like flint. Their chariot wheels like a whirlwind. Their roar is like that of the lion. They roar like young lions. They growl as they seize their prey and carry it off with no one to rescue. In that day they will roar over it like the roaring of the sea. And if one looks at the land, there is only darkness and distress. Even the sun will be darkened by the clouds. You got to decide what category you're going to be in. You going to be those young lions roaring and seizing over your prey, going to and fro to increase knowledge, working for the kingdom of heaven, actually working for the kingdom of heaven, showing up for his people. You know, I hear from people all the time who say, oh yeah, so-and-so is like a real warrior for the kingdom of heaven. He talks to everyone. He talks to our waitresses and can't go anywhere without him, trying to convert people. And yet they're in a counterfeit church. So how's that work? What are they preaching? What are they doing? God tell you to go out and do that with everybody? That is not a spirit-led ministry. That is a self-contrived ministry in which someone is trying to justify themselves as working for God. But the fruit of that is that they're in counterfeit Christianity. They can't even save themselves. That is someone who sets themselves up in a position that God has not even appointed them to, nor do they have truth. And that should be a major warning sign to you that that's not how it goes. That is something that is contrived by man. But what does God tell you? He says, don't forsake the gathering of the saints. He says, gather, assemble even more as the day approaches. You think you're going to be justified by a self-contrived ministry? What does God desire from you? It's kind of like Saul saying, but, we brought back all of these animals as offerings to the Lord. And Samuel saying to him, does the Lord desire offerings or does he desire obedience? What does he delight in more? You disobeyed the word of the Lord, and now you're trying to justify yourself and say that you obeyed him and bring back a gift for him. Look what I brought back for you. I disobeyed you, but I brought this offering. And what are people going to do on the day of the Lord? But Lord, didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we cast out demons in your name? And he's going to respond, depart from me, evildoers, I never knew you. Is that going to be to their credit? Are they going to be able to justify themselves by that? Or does God know better who are his? Does he know better who's sitting in his counsel and actually receiving healing from him versus setting themselves up to go out and proselytize when they don't even have truth themselves? They have not even saved themselves. Stop judging by external standards. Start judging by internal standards and the fruit that actually comes from that.